All right, so we have been waiting for a while for another glimpse at The Last of Us Season 2. The hype has been pretty high for this one, coming off of Season 1. They did an incredible job. There's a few little nitpicks I have, but they actually have been addressing them in the trailers. And so I've been really hyped to see what's going to come out of this thing. I knew that they announced that there's going to be a trailer, so I felt like it was going to be a pretty good one if they were trying to hype people up for it. And then in addition to that, the show's like just around the corner. We're in a month, we're going to be seeing this thing. And so I wanted to dive into this new trailer with you guys, share some of my thoughts on it, some of the things you might have missed, and do a full breakdown. And so if you're new here, welcome. Let's just dive into this thing and see all the goodness that they gave us today with this new trailer for The Last of Us Season 2. So the trailer starts off with this kind of broken bottle thing, and you see that it is indeed Ellie walking into a room. It gives me very similar vibes to when you guys break into this kind of little marketplace, and there's some clickers in there. And then in here, you see a stalker walk by, which is one of our first glimpses of them, and it's really incredible, really creepy, and I love this. And then we get another glimpse of Joel's watch, and then we get something really interesting, and this is a graveyard of the fireflies. All the fireflies that Joel killed at the end of that first season, and you get to see the firefly pendants. And for those of you who played the second game, you know, this is not going to be good. I wonder what they're going to do with this. I assume that you will see Abby's origins in the very first episode. Again, it's rumored and kind of been leaked that that first episode is going to be around 2 hours long, so it's going to be a full movie length. And I imagine that you are going to see Abby in that first episode before, spoilers and full spoilers all the way through this thing. She ultimately kills Joel at the end of that episode. I think that's what's going to happen. So I assume this is from the first episode. Then we get a glimpse of this flashback scene between Joel and Ellie when it's her birthday, and he takes her into the museum, and they go to the space thing, and she's kind of dazed off looking in the distance, and he asks her like, hey, what's going on? And this seems perfect, that it looks identical to the game. Even the stance that Pedro has there is so good in his outfit and everything. I'm really glad that we're getting these flashback scenes, and along with us getting some Abby in that first episode, I think we're going to get all of these flashback scenes up front for the most part. That I think they're going to make you feel like you as a viewer spent more time with Joel, and you kind of see what happens before he dies. But I could be wrong, but I think that's what a large part of the first episode is going to be spent doing. Then we get another great shot of Jackson here in the town, and it looks really great. Of course, they're filming this all in Canada, and so they transform this small town into Jackson, and it looks absolutely wonderful. It looks just like the game. And then you get something really interesting, which is Joel explaining on a map to this random kid of what the town is like. And because Maria is black in the show, it makes me think, is this actually Tommy's kid? Is this Joel's nephew? Just because I can't imagine Joel just having a random kid sitting on his lap and showing them things around Jackson at his desk by the looks of things. That it seems like it must be someone more personal to him. And I wonder if this is actually Tommy and Maria's kid, that they actually have a kid now, and enough time has passed that that is the case. And so I assume that this must be Joel's nephew, which is cool, which is something really different than the second game, that Tommy never had a kid. And so that's really interesting and cool to see. Then we get an image of Joel's house, and obviously it's before the events because there's his mailbox, but there's nothing around there unless they've digitally gotten rid of everything. But of course that house becomes pretty famous, but that looks really great. Looks just like the game. And here we have another great shot of Joel and Ellie and him gifting her the guitar. And this thing, man, that's the one thing I want to say, is the cinematography is so good in this TV show that each of these stills could look like somebody's wallpaper. And this is a great shot between the two of them. And then we have that first image that we got from the games trailer that we saw all those years ago between the dance of Dina and Ellie, and this looks really great. It honestly, if you showed me this and I didn't know this was for the trailer, I would mistake it probably for the game. But then we get a little bit more of a glimpse here at that dance, and Dina and Ellie and all of that looks great and wonderful, and like they've adapted that really well. Here we get more glimpses of that stalker that's coming after Ellie creeping up on her in that warehouse kind of room. And then we see a little bit of the Seraphites that we've seen this image before, but it's really cool. And we get a little bit more of them. And it makes me think that we are going to see more Seraphites than I thought. I still think this first season is going to cover Ellie's 3 days in Seattle, and it'll end on the cliffhanger that Ellie's 3 days end on. I really do think that's the route they're going to go, because we haven't seen very much from Abby at all, that we haven't had any casting for Yara or Lev, that I assume that actually the next season is going to be Abby's story. I actually think they're going to make it like the game. At least that's what it's seeming like. And so regardless, though, we're going to get some look at some Seraphites, and this is really great. And so we see here in this image, initially I thought maybe this was Abby, and that's what made me think, oh, this isn't actually... that they're not going to cover Abby in her 3 days in season 2, because this is just some random guy who, of course, is going to go through the ritual, which is too bad for him. Then we get a great shot of this wolf tank and a wolf soldier's helmet. This looks really great. I'm really excited to see what they do here. I hope we get more of a background, and I think this trailer teases it that we're going to get some filler stuff of what happened between the wolves and the Seraphites and what that has looked like. And so we get some glimpses here of them, and then we get a shot of the crew, Abby's crew, who are going to go and get the revenge on Joel. And everybody looks great here. You obviously see Owen, I believe, to our right, Abby's left, and then we just got the whole crew there, and they are looking for blood. I assume that they are not looking to be very friendly. Then we get a great shot of this horde, and this horde is going to be a giant action scene. And I'm happy to say that I told people that this is going to be a giant action scene. They're going to come after Jackson. It's not just a horde coming after Joel and Tommy and Abby. And everyone told me I was crazy, and I was like, well, I kind of know some things. And yeah, that they've officially confirmed that in this trailer. And this is awesome to see, because this is one of the critiques people had of the first season, where there were so many things that did well. But there really wasn't a lot of action, which is kind of crazy because it's an action game. And so it seems like they addressed that criticism pretty heavily, that we get this giant, enormous battle between Jackson and the Infected. And so we see them here running and being blown up by Jackson. We see Tommy sitting on top of the tower, sniping him out. That this thing looks incredible, and I can't wait to see that scene. I imagine that's in episode 1 as well. And then here we have a great shot that's kind of reminiscent to The Walking Dead almost, of Dina and Ellie heading into Seattle. And this looks absolutely incredible. And then we get a glimpse at this Seraphite. And this Seraphite, I think, must have his own episode or something. That it almost seems like they give us an extended time with this specific Seraphite between him and the leader of the wolves. Because you actually see him throughout this trailer if you're paying attention. It seems like they're going to show us the war between these two factions and how brutal it's been and why they're fighting and doing the things they do through the leader of the wolves and this random Seraphite who's a new character. And so obviously it looks like he has a daughter and that he's trying to protect her and care for his daughter. He's standing here looking afraid. Probably the wolves are coming for him, and so they flee. And then you see another shot here, and I assume that it actually is him fleeing again, but we don't know for sure. And then we get a shot here of some kind of a hallway, and I assume that this is Dina and Ellie kind of sneaking around underneath Seattle, trying to find their way to the wolves, and Abby, and they're hunting people down. And then we get a great shot of Jesse and Ellie, and this is where it changed for me, where I thought maybe they'll be going back and forth with Abby, and then I went, nope, there's no way they're doing that. Unless Jesse just automatically leaves with them to begin with. But I don't know if that'll happen because, of course, Jesse doesn't show up until much later in Ellie's journey in Seattle. And so I think that this first season is actually just going to cover Ellie's days and her seeking revenge. And he looks great there. And then we get a moment between Ellie and Dina, and they kiss when I assume that she finds out Ellie is immune. And then we get this phenomenal shot of this infamous part of the game where Joel takes Ellie for her birthday, and they get to go into this spacecraft, and she gets to pretend to be an astronaut. And it's really cool to see because it looks amazing. But I love that they're including this. Again, this show is so faithful to the game. That as someone who loves the game and thinks the story is phenomenal, I'm so thankful that this adaptation is being done incredibly well. And then we get an interesting shot here, and I imagine this is again from episode 1. And episode 1, I really do think is going to have a lot of the filling out and fleshing out of what happened between Joel and Ellie before his demise. And here you see that Ellie shows Joel her tattoo to kind of cover up her bite mark so that it's a little bit less obvious, and she's showing that to him. And then we see Ellie running. This looks like it's in a hospital, and so I assume that she's actually chasing Nora, because we see that later on, that this is when she runs into Nora and chases after her to try to get information out of her and to torture her, which I want to say, I was right again, that when we saw that in the trailer previously of Ellie glowing red, nobody thought that it was her torturing Nora, and that I was wrong. But guess what? This trailer proved that I was right, because indeed that does happen. And then here we have the leader of the wolves torturing that very Seraphite that we saw, who had a daughter and was running from the wolves. And so again, that's why I think that this Seraphite is actually going to play a pretty large role in fleshing out, at the very least, how we see the conflict of an audience. And I think that that's really cool, and I'm really intrigued to see whatever this is, whether it's just an opening scene, kind of like what they did in season 1, where they had a lot of these scenes that fleshed out the different locations and people groups that Joel and Ellie visited, or whether it's its own episode, and it's kind of like what they did with Bill, where they kind of take this little story and turn it into a bigger thing, where we get to see this conflict and what it's like to be on the other end of this thing, and why both people are obviously terrified of the Seraphites, but why the Seraphites are terrified of the wolves. So that looks great. And then here we have something really, really, really interesting, because of course we know that they got rid of the spores in season 1, that they just completely got rid of spores. And here, if you look closely, and especially if you watch it, spores come out of this infected. That this infected goes up to the wall to die like they do, but instead of just dying, spores come out of their mouth. And so I don't know if they're retconning that, or they're just having the clickers evolve to where now they can actually release spores. But here you can see, even in the light, that spores have been released. And so I don't know what they're doing with that. Maybe they regretted getting rid of the spores in the first season, and I think it's such an iconic look to The Last of Us that I to be honest, was disappointed that they did, because it also never really paid itself off. Like, it wasn't an improvement at all, in my opinion. In fact, it was worse. I think the co-showrunner who's working with Neil Druckmann, the original creator, Craig Mazin, said that he just didn't think it logically made sense, because if they're spores, they're like going to go out in the air and it could infect random people who are far away. And I always thought, oh, that's kind of a silly reason to not get rid of them. And it looks like they brought them back. So I wonder what their explanation will be for that. But here they are. And then we see Abby running away from this horde, climbing up to escape. And then we see this actor who I think is playing the Firefly that passes away at the beginning of The Last of Us Part 2, and you go and visit kind of his drug den place, and I'm blanking on the name of that guy, but I think this is the actor they cast for him, and by the looks of things, Joel is behind him, or maybe it's Tommy. Hard to tell, but maybe Joel or Tommy end up killing this guy. That maybe he's a Firefly who finds out what Joel did or who Ellie is, and maybe you see Joel or Tommy kill him. But it's interesting. I think this is him, and we get a glimpse of him here. Eugene, that's his name. Eugene, it finally came to me. And then, yeah, we get this glimpse of Joel looking down a gun. Again, it looks very similar to the shot we just had, and I wonder if Joel kills this guy because he figures out who Ellie is, because he was a Firefly. And so that could be really interesting if that is the case. Then again, this is the stalker attacking Ellie. Then we get this great shot of Pedro looking incredibly cold in Canada. But this must be when he runs into Abby or something here, that it's within that realm. But he looks very cold and very worried. Then we get that shot of Nora. And I told you that this was coming, and I really felt that this shot here of Ellie was from her torturing Nora, and so we do get a confirmation that is the case. And fun fact, Nora, this actress who's playing her, is actually the main actress for Naughty Dog's next game, Intergalactic, and so I'm really intrigued to see her performance, because she actually is the main character, not Nora, but the actress is playing the main character for Naughty Dog's next game. Then we get a shot of Joel, I assume, running away with Abby and Tommy, closing this door so that the infected can't get to them. Then we get more glimpses of, I assume, people being hung by seraphites in the forest. Then a shot here of, I'm pretty sure, Dina screaming. Not sure what's going on or what's happening here, but a glimpse of that. Another shot of Joel running away from the horde, probably with Tommy or Abby shooting off his pistol. And then this phenomenal shot that actually just gave me like a huge smile on my face of Tommy with a flamethrower just going to town on this bloater, which is pretty significant. That means a bloater gets into Jackson, because this is clearly inside Jackson, but Tommy is going to deal with him, where he brings out this flamethrower he's been holding on to and just lights this dude up. It's so cool. And then it kind of ends on this downer note of a really famous scene when Ellie finally finds out what Joel did, that he lied to her, not only lied to her, but he killed all of those people. And we get this glimpse of this scene between Ellie and Joel. But here's a big major difference. This is clearly in Jackson. That if you look behind Joel, that's the gate to Jackson. This is the entrance to Jackson by the looks of things. And so I don't know if she runs away, and instead of Joel finding her, she actually just comes back. And he's like, hey, where the heck did you go? And then she tells him, or what's happening here? But this is actually different, where this does not look like she went to the hospital, but instead she's in Jackson. And so that's really curious. And then, of course, Joel there's thinking like, what the heck have I done? Well, she's not going to be that proud of me anymore. And so that's kind of the end of the trailer. And so overall, it was a phenomenal trailer. I was really impressed by it. That everything we've been seeing from this season looks incredibly good. I can't wait to see the stuff they change or the stuff they add. That's what I'm most intrigued about, because I think that Part 2's story doesn't lend itself as well to TV or film as Part 1 does. And so I know that they're going to change things and switch things around. I'm really curious and excited to see what those things are and what this universe's Joel and Ellie go through that's maybe a little bit different. And what are the different glimpses we get at these characters that we didn't have in the video game version. And so those are some of my thoughts. I want to know what you guys think. Did you enjoy this trailer? Are you hyped for season 2? Are you just sitting around waiting for April, being like, I can't wait for it to drop? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. What do you think are some of the things they're going to change or tweak or add? What are the things you're looking forward to that maybe they'll tweak or add or shift around? What are the things you're maybe hesitant about? Like, comment, subscribe. Let me know in the comment section down below. All that junk. And I will see you guys in the next one.